Hello, my name is Sean Conahey of Dackman Productions, and here is a short disclaimer. I am not a Lionel official. I do not represent Lionel. Everything within this video has happened to me personally on my own railroad. I also am sharing some events similar to what has happened to me as well in this video. Once again, this is a disclaimer. Thank you. Hello everybody, welcome to another Dackman Productions video. This video is going to be a little bit different. Before I get started, I wanted to just say this video is not to bash manufacturers or any particular manufacturer. This video is to make people aware that there is a fire hazard on the Lionel cars that have kinetic couplers. So moving forward, I was test running my Lionel auto parts train, which is made up by all Lionel 86-foot high cube boxcars. Well, this New York Central boxcar derailed in such a way that it actually caught fire. I will turn the car upside down and show you the damage. So I have my Lionel boxcar turned upside down. So what had happened is this actually derailed, and as you can see, I'm trying to get a good view here, and as you can see, it actually caught fire and ended up melting that spring in there in the kinetic coupler. And you can see where the fire had actually scorched the train at the bottom of the car, but luckily the plastic didn't catch on fire. I pulled it off in time. And once again, this is to make people aware that these are potentially a fire hazard, so make sure you're keeping an eye on these things and you're not running them while nobody's around. So I posted online what had happened. A couple guys got back to me and they said something that made a lot of sense. So what happened? Why did my circuit breaker not click off? Or why did my fuse link, my quick blow fuse link, not blow? Why did this do this? And one guy said it is a resistant short. In other words, there's enough resistance in here that's causing the breaker not to trip or the fuse to blow, but yet it's still shorted. So it's not causing a full load, enough full load to trip the breaker. And that, to me, that made total sense. And he says with a resistance short, well, the first thing it will do will take out a spring, which is what's in the kinetic coupler. So you can see the damage done. And this thing got white hot. That's a dead short. So what I had to end up doing to fix it is so I could keep running it, is I actually took my tab right here and super glued it back down to the coupler. So now this coupler doesn't open anymore. It is permanently shut, but at least I can still run the train car. So the next thing I asked is, okay, well, how does this happen? So potentially they're saying the thumbtack coupler here can bounce up and down, just like that. And when it does, it could bounce up and down on this center rail, causing a short. Because it's not steady on there, it won't blow the fuse or a circuit breaker. but yet it's smoking because it's getting hot. Now eventually it's going to get hot enough that they're saying it could do this with a dead short. One guy said he had a Lionel Kinetic coupler start smoking himself. So for safety reasons, they are recommending, these guys who had also had something similar happen but never caught fire, they just had their smoke. This is probably the worst one they've seen. They are recommending that you take electrical tape and put electrical tape over the thumbtack coupler. And so if the coupler decides to bounce up and down, it will rub the electrical tape instead of the coupler. One guy said that he's done most of his Lionel cars, any Lionel cars that have Kinetic couplers, he has done just that. But he says he's seen problems and issues as well. Now, once again, I'm making this video because I'm not trying to bash a manufacturer. I'm trying to make people aware that these are a fire hazard, and not to run them while you're not around. And something like this, if it happens, at least you're there to stop it. But yeah, so needless to say, that's what I'll be doing. I'll be taking electrical tape and then insulating all the thumbtack couplers. All 16 of my cars. Yay. So, at any rate, if I don't want that to happen again, that's what I gotta do. And then I got auto racks, I gotta do it too as well. So, I'm in for a fun-filled day. But at any rate, I hope this prevents this happening to somebody else, or somebody's layout actually catching on fire. And thanks for watching Dakman Productions. And once again, it's just an awareness video. And we'll see you guys later. Bye. So I wanted to do a little follow-up here, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions. And I want to read the questions off of the website or off of Facebook and then read them back to you. So somebody suggested, hey, why don't you put a smaller fuse in your quick fuse breaker? And one guy replied, that's really not going to work if you go with a smaller amp fuse, because that would lower the ampacity of your layout. Therefore, you cannot run longer trains or larger trains or multiple trains. A lot of trains are pushing anywhere from 10 to 15 amps that are long and then large in size. So that was one question answered. So I had a hobby shop owner reply to my post on Facebook. He says it comes from the coupler uncoupling disc skidding across the center rail occasionally, not enough to catch the breaker, but enough to heat it up after running around the layout for a while. It took him quite a while to figure out what was going on. Those quick skips from the uncoupler are not enough to kick the breaker, but enough to heat it up after 15 to 10 minutes of running. So I hope this explains a little bit more of what's going on, and it made sense to me. Another notable reply is somebody calls this a resistive short, where there's enough resistance to form a legitimate load and full power runs through without tripping the breaker. The resistor heats up and melts, burns the plastic around it. Springs are good for causing those, which is what you have in a Kinetic coupler assembly. So this is another comment on my post, which made absolute sense to me, and that's exactly what I saw, the spring melting. Somebody had asked me on the post, how many power feeders do you have going from the transformer to the track? The hobby shop owner replies, the amount of feeders going to the rail have nothing to do with this situation. The guy says, wouldn't the commutative resistance prevent the trip of a circuit or blowing a fuse? And the hobby shop owner replies, no, not at all. The late brushing of the uncoupler tab on the rail causes this problem. So that was another reply that made sense to me as well. The third and last post that I will share with you guys, or comment, also made sense. The third person agrees it is a resistive short, and if you size the breaker or fuse to the spring capacity, in other words, resizing the fuse smaller, you won't have enough ampacity or amps to run a large train or engine on the layout. So that makes total sense to me as well in this situation. And I hope all this helps people out there in the O gauge community. I forgot to mention one more thing. Somebody came onto my post and said it looks like the car derailed, which means it was in full contact. The hobby shop owner says this has happened on his own railroad. What happens is the piece heats up and weakens the spring in the kinetic coupler, and then actually derails the car. He saw his car smoking before it actually derailed, and so this led him to find out his findings of what's going on, which is similar to mine in this video. Thanks for watching.